Nigel Farage frequently uses a combination of deflection.
Let's worry about where we are today.
Whataboutism.
So 600,000 is an acceptable number of people coming to the UK every year.
Yeah, should we talk about the election as well? What about that?
A manipulation of media narratives to protect his image and deflect attention from uncomfortable topics. In this Sky News interview, when pressed on the problematic history of a Reform UK member who kicked his girlfriend in the stomach repeatedly whilst on the ground and had to be dragged off by 2 security guards, he immediately shifts focus to an issue involving the Labour Party. Have a listen.
MP and representing constituents. My point here is not what happened. My point is that there is a discrepancy.
Right. Well,
he
I haven't
said
seen
I
it.
pushed
I believe
her
you.
over.
I believe you.
But
I haven't
that's
seen the
the court
discrepancy.
document.
It's a spent
conviction.
End
What did he tell you he'd
of
done?
conversation.
Well, what did he say he'd done
Spent conviction,
to you?
end of conversation.
End of conversation. He's so arrogant. But it doesn't end there. I'm going to show you a little bit more later with Richard Tice, who had an equally car crash of an interview about this topic.
His constituents...
I tell you what, we're busy, right? We're building a new political party. You are talking about a spent conviction from 20 years ago. What's happened is happened. Whether there are discrepancies or not, I don't know. What I know is he's a fine young man.
So if you were leader of a party and you found out that one of your candidates had done that, wouldn't you go off and research what the event was and what the conviction was and what the judge's ruling was? But no. Nigel's too busy to do that.
Who's turned out really very, very well.
But for the victim,
he's a serving member of Parliament.
For him to imply that she was pushed over when the court document says he kicked her, that's difficult for the victim, isn't it?
I'll believe anything you say.
Farage's response suggested a desire to maintain control over the narrative, a need for constant validation, and an aversion to scrutiny. His insistence on moving past uncomfortable topics and his dismissal of serious questions, to me, it makes me think he's not taking these issues seriously enough. And it makes me wonder how serious he would be if it was his own daughter.
It's not what I say, it's what the court document says.
I haven't read
it's not what I said, it's a court document.
I don't know, it's 20 years ago. And this is why, and this is why the mainstream media like you are losing the affections of the British public.
And this is why Nigel's party is gaining zero traction with women.
Let's worry about where we are today. Let's worry about where the country's going. Let's worry about the fact we're getting poorer. Let's worry about the fact that our communities are breaking down.
It's funny because all those reasons can be linked to Brexit. And of course, if you pull Nigel up on the damage of Brexit, he just laughs it off, calls people losers, and suggests we need to move on from the damage that he created.
That people are scared to walk on the streets of London wearing a watch or jewellery. No, I know. And you're talking about an inside Westminster story that you want to talk about.
If you want to professionalise the party, then these are questions people are going to ask. And if it was another political party and this has happened, you would expect me to ask them as well.
Great point by Beth Rigby there. She would be holding them to account. They have been held to account, and even on other stuff, less significant, they've been held to account. But for Nigel, no, can't hold us to account. Deflect, deflect, deflect.
I've not heard you ask a single Labour minister about the case where a man was on the ground in Runcorn a few weeks ago and punched 5 times on the ground.
Has he not been suspended for that?
Suspended.
I thought he had the whip suspended.
Still a member of Parliament.
Have you? But you
still a member of Parliament.
But he has had the whip suspended, and they are investigating it.
We'll see.
Whereas what you're saying here is that the court documents are irrelevant. So
I'm saying a spent conviction is irrelevant. You're quite right.
I doubt very much he'd be saying that if it was about his own daughter. And we're not done, because Richard Tice, the co-leader of the party, also had a nightmare of an interview, citing Christianity, as well as trying to defend the indefensible, but not in the same way as Nigel.
But the thing that has struck me as well is the gender gap, right? So you are, as you say, doing very well, polling very well, specifically around young men. But only 6% of women aged between 18 and 24 say they're likely to vote for you. That's half the number compared to young men. So what do you think it is about your party that isn't appealing to young women?
Well, whatever it is, clearly we've got more work to do.
The other thing that I do want to talk to you about as well is James McMurdoch, your MP for South Basildon and East Surrey. Now, he, of course, was jailed for assault when he was 19, and I know that Nigel Farage has come out to say that look, the vetting wasn't what it should be, right? But, you know, if you're here, you're saying you want to be taken seriously as a political party, then this is the kind of thing that matters, right? Because court documents obtained by the Times have recently shown he was jailed for kicking his girlfriend around 4 times, according to those court documents seem
Actually, that I don't think is an accurate representation of what the documents do say, point number one.
He's so confident in what he's saying, and yet we know he's completely blagging what he's actually saying to the presenter. And it gets better.
Point number two, we are a great Christian nation. Are you seriously saying that if someone makes a bad mistake in life, age 19, that there's no redemption, they are doomed as a sinner forever? No.
Yep, he actually brought out the Christian card, and I am going to dissect that shortly.
The whole point of Christianity is a sense of, if you've done something wrong, you pay your price, and at the end of that sentence, whatever it is, then, in a sense, you've done your bit. You've served your punishment, whatever it is, and good luck.
And good luck. And he's citing the Bible, and of course in the Bible, it seems to completely vary. So for example, in Leviticus, anyone who injures their neighbour is to be injured in the same manner. Fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. Is this something he's going to prescribe to, or is he just being selective in his Christian values? Or is Richard talking about New Testament Jesus Christ Christian values? You know, particularly those based on the emphasis of love, compassion, forgiveness, and the care for the marginalised and the vulnerable. Have a listen to all these clips that I've collected from the Reform Party, formerly known as UKIP.
So basically benefits claimants, because what this budget should have done is incorporated a massive campaign to reduce the welfare bill. I mean, the welfare bill is out of all control. It is ludicrous how many young people are supposedly too sick to work and being supported by the state. Basically, these people are, frankly, parasites.
So when Jesus said help the sick, I guess what he really meant was unless they're on welfare, then they're just parasites. Good to know, right? Nothing like divine irony to spice up the love thy neighbour gospel from Richard Tice's wife. And there's nothing quite like a Christian hanging out with people with Nazi ties, throwing Nazi salutes, or Farage belting out Nazi tunes.
Nigel Farage during his days as a pupil at the exclusive Dulwich College from teachers accusing him of racist and fascist behaviour. Some members of staff expressed their concern after the teenage Farage was appointed a prefect, including a claim that he marched through a village late at night singing Hitler Youth songs.
And it doesn't end there.
I think it's time for a game of fruitcake or loony.
The game where you decide whether or not a UKIP member is a fruitcake or a loon.
He's a would-be UKIP councillor and loony John Sullivan, who wrote, "Regular physical exercise releases boys' tensions and thus avoided homosexuality." Which is quite right, Mr. Sullivan, and that's why you'll never see a gay man down the gym.
Yes, nothing like some good old-fashioned Old Testament homophobia. And then Nigel really puts his foot in it when he starts talking about his treasurer for UKIP, who he knows really well.
Nigel Farage, UKIP party.
This is a bit tricky, this one, because he's the treasurer and one of our biggest donors. And I wouldn't really like to call Stuart Wheeler either. I'll have to go for fruitcake.
Is the correct answer.
Oh,
You got it right. This is UKIP party treasurer Stuart Wheeler and Fruitcake, who said that women had no place in the boardroom and couldn't compete with men at sports, even when they're not physically disadvantaged. He said, chess, bridge, poker, women come absolutely nowhere. I think that just has to be borne in mind.
Because nothing says Christianity like some good old misogyny.
No, anyone?
I'm going to go for loony.
It's the wrong answer. It's actually a trick question. He's not a fruitcake nor a loony. He's a closet racist. At a public meeting about travellers, he said, the Romanians, they'll stick a knife in you as soon as look at you. His name is Rob Fraser.
Well, thanks for telling me.
Well, there you go.
We're not wanting to live next door to Romanians. It's perfectly acceptable for
I
people
didn't say
not
that.
to
I
want
was
to...
asked if a group of Romanian men moved in next door to you, would you be concerned?
What about if a group of German children did? What's the difference?
The difference, and you know what the difference
No,
is.
I honestly don't. This is, I think, where the disconnect is between your position and mine. What is the difference?
We want an immigration policy based on controlling not just quantity but quality as well. And we have a problem. Sadly.
People who my children go to school with, their parents are troubled by the idea that they're now being demonised and typified. And you gloss so smoothly and so slickly over demonising Romanians and demonising Germans.
I'm not demonising anybody.
But you just asked you a question about Romanians and you started talking about people traffickers.
I'm demonising a political class that has allowed us to have an open door to allow things like this to happen.
OK, so when I say Romanian and you start talking about people traffickers, why didn't you say people are perfectly entitled to feel uncomfortable about living next door to people traffickers, wherever they're from. Why do you say Romanians?
I didn't say Romanians. I was asked a question. If a group of Romanian men moved in next to you, would you be concerned? And if you lived in London, I think you would be.
So Richard continues with this brilliant line of logic by flip-flapping about who you should listen to. And essentially, the only voice that we should listen to is Richard's. Not the courts, not the papers, not the witnesses, not the person who was attacked, not the person who was involved in the attack. No, we should all just listen to Richard. Just listen to this.
Because I don't know what he's supposed to be redeemed for at the minute. What did he do?
Well, look, the court made a decision. We rely on the court judgment, right? And you can have different opinions as to what... Look, if he agrees or disagrees with that, that's one thing. At the end of the day, the court ruled, the court made a decision, and he served his time, and now he's had a great career, and I think that's a really positive sign, where you can say to someone, if you do something stupid, you do something bad, you make a terrible mistake, but actually you can come back from it. And that, I think, is a really constructive, optimistic thing.
If it's a good thing, why don't you just say what he's done?
Because I wasn't there on the night, and there's a disagreement about it. The court made a decision. We rely on the court judgment, right?
No, and you're serving in Parliament with him,
I'm
right?
on his side. I disagree with what else is saying.
So you don't think he kicked her then? Is that what you're saying?
I'm trusting James. He's bang on the money, and I think that what he says is right. He was there. The court wasn't there. The court made a decision. We rely on the court judgment, right? The Times weren't there.
Well, the victim was there as well, right?
Yeah, and they're going to have a disagreement. The court made a decision. We rely on the court judgment, right? Do you trust the law, right, or do you trust the Times 20 years later?
Well, the law said he was guilty.
The law, exactly, OK? Right, so the law said he was guilty, they served a sentence, and he's done his time, and he's moved on, and he's been incredibly successful, and I'm very proud of that.
So here we have it. Farage and Tice both in full denial mode. Farage is quick to tell us to move on, dismissing the past as if it doesn't matter, because hey, what's a little violence or controversy when you've got a platform to protect, right? And then Tice pulling the Christian nation card while defending the indefensible and asking us to ignore the facts, just like we're supposed to forget the past and pretend the courts, newspapers and the truth don't exist. Very similar to Brexit. But here's the thing, Christianity is about redemption, but it's also about truth, justice and caring for the vulnerable. And when you've got people with Nazi ties dismissing the voices of victims and twisting the facts to fit a narrative, maybe it's not the UK that needs redemption, maybe it's their understanding of Christianity. The irony is thick here, and it's hard to swallow. So no Richard, no Nigel, this isn't just something we move on from. Not today, not ever. Once again, thank you to all my Patreon and YouTube supporters who keep this channel going and growing. If you would like to become one, there's a link in the description. Once again, thanks for listening. Bye for now.